Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Astra Season offense matches. Fjorm's second bonus week, and the support I wanted to use with her, gave me a good excuse to shuffle up my usual offense units a bit. Brave Edelgard's been used exclusively on my defenses for a long while, so it was great to give her some time in the offense side of things for once. Her kit is a pretty straightforward near-save setup, combining her slaying effect, steady breath, and bonfire to give her some devastating counterswings. I did decide to keep close defense instead of using sturdy stance, though. Black Eagle rule's damage reduction means that she usually doesn't care much about specials that land after the first swing anyway, and neutralizing bonuses can help her survive opponents who front-load their damage instead. Gatekeeper continues to be a fantastic support for a save armor strategy, offering some hefty combat stat bonuses to his allies while also shutting down the enemy team's mobility. I got a plus defense copy of him as a pity breaker recently, and switching to his super boon, along with giving him a fortress skill, actually lets him soak dark shrines from Edelgard. Fjorm herself continues to be an excellent far-save user. Having access to an LC Disrupt lets her handle most of the common anti-armor options without any problems, and focusing on her offensive stats lets her avoid any follow-up attacks, while one-rounding just about any opponent. The extra damage from Ice Mirror helps a lot with that, and the damage reduction makes using Mystic Boost a great way to boost her survivability. The Mythics are here for support. Ashera's bonus week lets her soak Bright Shrines and attack her speed chills away from Fjorm, while having two sources of speed defense link makes it easy to give both armors a full spectrum of buffs. Plumeria's dances and mobility options are also always useful. We did end up using a few other teams during the week. Dimitri wasn't put to let Edelgard take all the spotlight, and he got to use a specialized melee build this time. Attack speed unity would probably be the better overall option for him here if I had another Marianne to teach it to him, but Solo still does a great job of letting him carve through his opponents, and potentially snipe a frontliner to apply atrocity and panic smoke before the fight begins. Using Steady Breath for his seal instead of another attack speed solo lets him use Soul instead of Noontime as a healing special, and the increased healing output is really noticeable. Dimitri got two slightly different teams to work with this week. Yuri offers the team an extreme amount of mobility on the map thanks to Kanto, Disarm Trap, and Foul Play, giving them options to navigate otherwise difficult situations. He can also be an excellent sniper if needed. Fjorm, meanwhile, offers us the eternally useful isolation support and some extra healing if necessary. The last team I used this week was a bit experimental. It could definitely use some optimization, especially in giving the team speed and defense buffs to bolster Ashera's attack even more, but I really enjoyed how well it worked. Ashera's bonus week gave me an excuse to let her do something other than just support, and combining her weapon's potential attack bonuses with Catria's triangle attack turns her into a nearly unstoppable force of nature. Her default ideal and lull work well with this setup, giving her a significant boost to damage output, while Heavy Blade gives her a very consistent glimmer every combat if she doesn't run into a guard effect. The team was initially built with Claude in mind as the primary damage dealer, but he actually ended up being more of a supportive sniper this week. In spite of that, he's still an extremely powerful attacker thanks to the combination of his weapon's null follow-up and Fallen Star's damage reduction and gravity effects. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a really neat way to start off the week. I haven't actually seen a Maribel on defense before, though I do think that her refined punishment staff is a really solid technical choice that can throw off a lot of people since it's so rarely seen. Effectively what it does is allow you to exploit Triangle Adept on opponents while not actually having to suffer any of the drawbacks as long as she's also buffing the units within 2 spaces of her with the skill. They've also got an Elise who can inflict gravity and really annoy people on following turns, along with also making it hard to use these defense tiles thanks to the passive effect that she gives her allies. They also combine this with a very heavily speed and defense-oriented Eliwood, who is still honestly a pretty solid threat, even if Lunge is not as powerful as it used to be thanks to near save. They've also got a weaponless Azure in the corner, with Hone Attack 4, and also a dance skill to make sure that she's always giving a full spectrum of buffs to anybody she dances, and a refined and remixed Legendary Tiki as their far save candidate. The extra benefits of her personal save skill, giving a full set of defense and res buffs to everybody in range, really make this team a lot bulkier than you might think at first, and a lot like Maribel and Elise, can definitely catch people off guard since it's not something you see too regularly. Veronica in the corner is not really doing too much other than enabling a duo's hindrance, but can still contribute a chill attack and potentially annoy people on following turns thanks to Azura and the solo skills. I don't think I'm going to have too many issues with this, and we're actually going to end up using Edelgard to tank Eliwood, which is always funny to see. I'm going to need to be careful to test this trap while out of range of our armors, since if it's real, we don't want them to get hurt by it. It didn't end up being real, but that doesn't stop us from wanting to be careful about it. Then we'll just dance Fjorm forward, and then let Edelgard use her own mobility to jump in and keep Gatekeeper safe from Ceres and Eliwood. And then we'll say go. From here, yep, Harsh Command happens first, then Azura dances, and he just Harsh Commands again because he still can't do any damage to Edelgard, which then lets Fjorm handle Maribel and Elise. Unless Ceres moves in to attack first. The triangle adept here isn't actually holding Ceres back, and if anything, makes her combat more favorable against Edelgard thanks to the cancel affinity she gets. But it's still not enough for her to survive that bonfire. And, well, Elise isn't getting anything done to Fjorm either. And then all Tiki can do is move forward one space. From here, since Azura doesn't have a weapon, all we really need to do is stall for a little bit while we let the rest of this team break themselves against Edelgard. That shouldn't be too hard. We're just going to have her break this panic manner and then dance her. While Gatekeeper can move up and claim this defense tile for Edelgard to save everybody on.
Yes?
And then we'll just have Fjorm move forward as well.
Yes.
Let Ashera move in here to continue buffing Edelgard for the following turns. And say go. Yep. Harsh Command comes through again, but from there aren't any targets left for him to Harsh Command.
No mercy.
And, well, Veronica doesn't get a chance to use her bonfire since Edelgard uses hers first. And this fight is not going well for Tiki.
You can't stop me.
Down she goes. Then from here it should actually be pretty easy to finish this match. I'm going to start just by letting Edelgard jump all the way forward and, despite her defensive build, take down Eliwood in the player phase.
I won't back down.
Before we let Ashera pick up one pot, Gatekeeper pick up the second pot.
Why not?
Before we dance Gatekeeper,
Greetings.
and let him close out the match. I do love that attack animation. It was a fun one to start with. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a really fun showcase of some very impressively invested units, starting with this maxed out Fallen Ike. It's only missing an Ascended Floret, and I feel like they might be giving him one soon. The Unity works really nicely with Chaos Ragnall and his attack speed Oath, making him very difficult to handle without someone who can actually match his speed stats. especially if your opponent brings any debuffs, like our Sabotage Speed on Plumeria. They've also got a maxed out Brave Ike, who I'm a bit surprised doesn't have his Resplendent bonus. He's still very impressive with an Ascended stat and, yeah, kind of his usual enemy phase offense build, but it's still really solid. They're backing this up with a maxed out Brave Hector, with Far Save and Armored Boots, which is interesting, but it does help him keep up with his team if someone tries to just bait them out one at a time. And a maxed out Bonus Week Robin, who's very impressive. This Dragon Wall is a nice touch with the plus 10 to stats she can get from the combination of her Weapon Refine and remixed A skill, and also the Speed Res form. She can be very hard to bring down, since cancelling opponent's bonuses and also applying a guard effect makes it pretty difficult for a lot of units to function properly. And then in the corner they've also got Duma and a bonus week 3-seer. As much investment as this team has, it should be pretty straightforward to clear, mostly since we have a pretty invested Dimitri of our own, and they can't just stat check us with this. So we're going to take this first turn to just open things up a bit and have Yuri test out some traps. Okay, that's one tested, and there's the real gravity trap. Plumeria can just dance him and have him test the real bolt trap. It's nice to be able to test 3 traps in one turn like that.
What is your desire?
And we'll just move Naga in behind Dimitri and give him Dragon Slaying for next turn, and Ashera over to complete his spectrum of buffs, and move Fjorm in to also get those buffs. And nothing happens, they're all boxed in. So from here, we're going to smite Dimitri forward and make sure he gets all of his speed and defense buffs. He's going to need them here. I actually did end up forgetting about this tactic room hitting Ashera this turn, but we still have a way to make this work. I'll just have Dimitri break this wall,
Why not?
then dance him from here. And Yuri can make up for Fjorm's lack of mobility with foul play, before cantoing back up. And Dimitri can break this pot to make sure that more than just this Brave Ike has access to him here.
I am the answer.
And we'll just move Ashera down so she doesn't get gravitied again next turn.
Lady
And Fjorm can open this up for us. I think the Brave Ike should attack first here, since he's the only one who can survive Dimitri, at least for now. And even though panicking Fallen Ike does a lot of work for his stats, it shouldn't be enough to let him handle Dimitri, and well, even on the bonus week, 3-seer's not handling Fjorm very well. Here comes Ike. He does get an impressively high attack stat, but it's not quite enough to let him handle Dimitri. And well, effective damage and atrocity is not a fun combo for Robin to fight. Though she does survive the first hit thanks to Dragon Wall, which is very impressive to see. From here, we just want to make sure we break this healing tower before it has a chance to make Ike too much of a nuisance to deal with.
Your orders.
We should be able to do that thanks to Yuri and his mobility. We're just going to move Dimitri up here, which also lets Plumeria use her acrobatics to jump over him and dance.
Where to, friend?
We'll have Yuri break this healing tower before cantoing back out of the way of Hector,
I'll comply.
and Dimitri can break this Aether fountain for us.
It will be done.
And then from here we'll just have people move up
Yes?
and say go. Ike moves in first, and with Atrocity offline I think he actually gets to survive this combat again, which is very impressive. But it also means that Dimitri's still not at full health for this combat with Hector, and that does not end well for Hector. And once he's back at full health from that fight, Duma moves in and doesn't have his weapon online. Which means Dimitri just gets to one-shot him and recover all his health one more time.
On my honor.
And now that we've whittled the Reich down to 4 hit points,
Your
Dimitri
orders.
can finally put him out of his misery and bring the fight to an end. It was pretty well fought from the side. He did a good job. This match is going to be another interesting one, even if it's probably going to be pretty degenerate with how we clear it. They've got a pretty spooky trap here, involving this Duo Sigurd and a 7th unit Lysithea, who gets a pre-charged Dragon Fang thanks to the infantry pulses from Ophelia and Saros, making her an extremely dangerous target to try and tank. Especially when she's also being backed up by a Summer Mia, and Ophelia herself with a pre-charged Blazing Wind thanks to the 3 mages on the team. We're also protecting this from hit-and-run shenanigans with a Farsave Hector. The Ignis is an interesting touch. I don't know if it's quite as reliable as Bonfire, but it probably gives him a lot more punch for dealing with some of the bulkier ranged opponents he'll get attacked by. And they round the team out with a Ground Orders Mirabilis and a Saros, who's using double hit point skills to make sure she pulses Lysithea. I don't think we're going to have too many problems with this. As spooky as this Lysithea is, I don't think she's actually going to be able to one-shot Fjorm, or even really come too close, and we actually get to shut down a lot of their warping shenanigans just by having Gatekeeper on the team. The number of lulls on their team for relevant stats also mean that we don't care about giving Fjorm a full set of buffs. Just having the attack buff for Lysithea and Mia is fine. Actually, I'm going to switch a couple of things around since I just want to make sure that Ashera ends up soaking this Bright Shrine instead of getting it to hit Fjorm by accident. I wouldn't want Mia to actually survive this combat after all.
Yes.
So we'll just flip Fjorm forwards.
Yes?
And move her over to the right to protect
Reporting
Gatekeeper
for
when he
duty.
plants his feet right here.
Tread
Then we'll
carefully.
have Edelgard move in. I don't think she's going to need to protect Gatekeeper since I don't think Hector or Saros are going to make it into range of him this turn. But it's better safe than sorry.
Why not?
Then Plumeria can move over here to make sure we're donating some extra buffs to
What
this
is your
tile.
desire?
And we'll say go. I'm not sure exactly what's going to rally or dance first. Okay, Ophelia rallies and then gets danced, so we don't even end up tanking Lysithea here. And while Sigurd looks like he can do a chunk of damage, it gets very heavily mitigated by its mirror. And Fjorm can one-shot him easily enough, before tanking her way through Mia as well, who does a lot less damage. And then gets doubled, so her damage reduction doesn't really come into play. From here, even though we didn't get to knock Lysithea out last turn, we're going to let her continue waiting to attack us again. I think we can actually bait Ophelia into attacking us here, so we're just going to
Forward.
wait in place,
I'll do it.
dance Edelgard for some buffs, since she should actually get to counterattack one of these melee this turn.
Yes.
And we'll let Naga continue breaking her way towards this Aether pot, and say go. Yep, Ophelia moves in to attack. She can't actually do too much damage to Gatekeeper since his visible res is pretty high, and, well, she can't actually do damage to Fjorm at all here. And then from there, Hector gets danced forward, and attacks into Edelgard, who punches right through his follow-up denial thanks to
I
a
won't
very
back down.
solid set of speed buffs, and takes him down. Now that they're down to just Lysithea and Saros, and Lysithea, to be fair, is still a major threat. We should still be able to handle this pretty easily, especially since Lysithea is no longer getting an attack buff and is actually getting hit by this Dark Shrine. We'll just move Gatekeeper down. There's not really a good spot to bait this from further up, since we don't want to get Mirabilis knocked out, but we do want to knock Saros out.
Close your
Then we're
eyes.
just going to move Plumeria over,
Yes?
Fjorm down,
The choice is clear.
and let Edelgard protect everybody from Saros. And
It will
Naga
be
moves
done.
down to escape from this Lysithea before she gets massacred, and we'll say go. Lysithea moves in and can do a lot of damage with this
You
Dragon
will
Fang,
regret this.
but it's not quite enough to punch through the ice mirrors. And well, Fjorm gets to reflect a very large amount of damage back and one-shot her for her trouble. While Saros, well, with 2 hit point skills, is not going to get anything done to Edelgard.
You can't stop me.
And then Mirabilis moves in and gets to be the last person standing on their team. And now all we need to do is pick up these Aether pots before finishing the match. It's going to take us
Yes.
another couple of turns to reach them, but we still have plenty of time since we started right away.
Where to today?
And I'm actually going to let Gatekeeper finish Mirabilis off. He is going to need a couple of rounds of combat to do it, since, well, this is not a very aggressive build for him, and she is pretty bulky, with res and triangle advantage.
I'll
Then
do
we'll
it.
just dance him, give him a little bit more bulk,
Tread
and make sure that
carefully.
Edelgard isn't going to finish Mirabilis off here, since that would not be ideal. She moves in, and gets to Moonbow him.
Hey, why?
It doesn't do too much damage.
What is your
And then
desire?
we'll just let Naga pick up the first pot,
Why not?
Maria pick up the second. And
Where to
Gatekeeper
today?
should be able to move over one tile and finish Mirabilis off.
You're suspicious.
She's just trying to take a nap, Gatekeeper. That was a fun one. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a fun one. I've been looking forward to using this team for a little bit, and this is going to be a fun match for Ashera to take on. They've got a very impressively invested set of units here, with a maxed out Fjorm as one of their frontliners, backed up by a maxed out Nino with a precharged Blazing Flame, thanks in part to the infantry pulses from this also maxed out Joshua, and the Nils, who's the dancer on their team. They also have 3 mythics, including a bonus week Thracier to boost their stats, and it can be pretty tricky to crack through this, since an in-season Fjorm with this much investment can actually be very tricky to take down, and taking a Blazing Flame from this Nino is not going to be good for most tanks to try. But I think I've got a fun way to handle this, and it'll give us a bit of a break from save ball shenanigans. We're actually not going to worry too much about this bolt trap. Even if
Not
it's
my
real,
first
Ashera
choice.
doesn't need full health to really do her job. Nope, there it is. And
On the right
all this
foot.
really does is enable Wings of Mercy for Peony. And
Sure
then
thing.
we'll just spend the rest of the turn clearing out some more of these structures.
Yes,
Ashera can break the tactic room, and
it will be done.
Naga can move in. Then we'll just
I'll do it.
dance her, let her break this
Yes.
infantry school,
My
and
warmest
then we'll
greetings.
just let Peony move in behind everybody, and wait the first turn out. Dooman does his upheaval, but we're not in range of them, so nothing else happens here.
Let's
Then
go.
we'll just take one more turn to keep maneuvering into position. Claude's going to break this shrine so it doesn't impede Ashera,
I am
who's
the answer.
currently tanking those -8s,
Why not?
Plumeria's just going to jump forward and break this fence, so we have a bit more room to work with.
Yes.
We're going to move Ashera forward one step and not break anything to keep funneling all of them through this choke point.
On the right foot.
Peony can dance her. And then
be
we'll
by
move
his
Catria
side.
over one space
There
to
is but
continue
one
giving
future.
everyone triangle attacks. And move Ashera
What is your
back,
desire?
with Naga behind her to smite for next turn. And
It will
from
be
there,
done.
we should be able to just smite Ashera forward
Yes.
and let her casually triangle attack Fjorm down.
Fool!
Even with Ice Mirror, Fjorm's not going to survive this. The card effect does mean she doesn't have to tank a Glimmer, but the attack Ashera is getting at this point is just too much for her to handle. Then all we have to do is dance Ashera
I am the
and
answer.
flip Peony back to safety. They shouldn't be able to reach us from here since Nino is never going to be able to be danced by Nils since she'll move out of his range, and even if Joshua gets danced, he still can't reach us afterwards, so well, we should be just fine
this?
staying here and waiting for another turn. Yep. Dance. And then we continue moving up. The first thing we'll do here is just smite Claude forward and test this gravity trap. Depending on whether or not it's real, and it is real, it gives us some options.
Sure thing.
We'll just start by having Claude snipe zeros. It's easy enough for him to do with triangle attack enabled.
Close
Then
your
we're just
eyes.
going to hit and run again, dance
Let's go.
Claude and let him flip Plumeria to safety, and let everybody
On the
else
right
just
foot.
back up one more time.
Yes.
And say go. Interestingly, they don't actually get to move very far here since Bracier moves first, which actually ends up blocking both Joshua thanks to the gravity effect and Nino from moving anywhere.
Wait
This
for
turn's
me.
going to be a bit of an elaborate movement shenanigan round. We're going to start by having Catria flip Naga forward and Kanto to the left,
I am the answer.
which lets Ashera jump in and knock out Thracier. She doesn't actually survive the first hit, so we don't get a glimmer there, but that's okay.
Why not?
Then we're going to dance Ashera over.
Yes.
Then we'll just have Naga move down one tile,
Let's go.
let Claude jump over Ashera to break this throne. Ashera
Yes.
can move over and knock out Nils completely unassisted thanks to, well, some pretty solid offensive stats and a pre-charged
Don't
glimmer.
waste your energy.
My
And then
warmest
Wings of Mercy
greetings.
lets Peony jump over and get Ashera back out
There
of
is
the way
but
of the
one
falling turn.
future.
And without a dancer, they really don't have any options to reach us, which makes things much easier for this turn. And then
What
from
is your
here, we should be
desire?
able to clean this up. We're going to move Naga forward to both secure one of these Aether pots and help enable triangle attack,
Not my
while
first
Catria
choice.
flips Ashera forward and Kanto's down.
Yes.
And that is enough for Ashera to take Joshua down,
Fool!
even through the guard effect. Which then lets Peony move up and dance her. And since we found the
There
real
is
gravity
but
trap
one
already, we
future.
could just move here and take down Nina.
Perished, flawed one.
Which lets
I'll do it.
Plumeria move over and dance her one last time.
Sure thing.
But we do want to make sure we pick this pot up before we finish this match
Yes.
by letting Ashera one-shot Duma. No triangle attack for this one, but she doesn't need it. And down he goes. That was a fun one. Lots of warping shenanigans thanks to that bolt trap. Let's see what we get next. This match will be another interesting one. They have a pretty cool setup here involving a bonus weak Fjorm as their first save unit to try and keep them safe from hit and run attacks. And a duo Leaf who's always been a major threat. And they're backing him up with a duo Corrin who's pretty new to the scene, and they've already given her an ascended buff. Windsweep makes her a very difficult unit to tank well, as if you don't have a Nullsea Disrupt or someone who can match her speed. And this extra true damage she can get from her weapon really helps her punch through even bulkier opponents that she might attack into. They've also got a duo Sigurd here as their dancer, but this position doesn't really work as well as they might like for him, since with this fallen Edelgard in the corner as their 7th unit, Sigurd is always going to want to run over here to dance her, which actually forces her to untransform, and also turns off Armored Stride, as long as you can make sure that he stays dancing her. They've also got this bonus week Thracier, and Aceros as their mythics to round out the team. I'm actually going to end up taking some time with this and letting them actually self-sabotage their team with this dance, since it'll make it much easier to pick up both Aether pots after most of the threats are out of the way. This is actually going to end up taking a bit longer than we might like, since the safety fence is going to stop Sigurd from dancing on this first turn.
Tread carefully.
We'll let Edelgard open this up,
Why
and
not?
Aerobatics lets Maria jump into position and break the Stark Shrine for us.
Lady
Fjorm will just move down,
What is your desire? Yes.
and we'll have Ashera break the pumpkins,
I am the answer.
while Naga break the pumpkins, while
Where to
Ashera
today?
flips Gatekeeper over and he can move into his position. And we're out of range, so the safety fence locks him out. And then
There
the
is but
second
one
turn, we're
future.
just going to do a grand total of moving Ashera left 1 tile, which
The choice
lets
is clear.
Edelgard and
I'll protect
Fjorm
you.
have their buffs for next turn. And we'll end the turn there. And then Sigurd moves over, dances Edelgard, and that's all that happens. And now that we've made sure that Edelgard is going to stay very stuck in her corner after Sigurd dances, we can start our actual plan of attack.
It will be done.
We're going to just smite Gatekeeper forward and test this bolt trap, which is fake. I did expect this one to be real.
Reporting for
And then he
duty.
can move up and attempt to pick up this Aether pot for us. That trap is real, it's fine.
Yes?
Fjorm is going to swap Naga,
Yes.
and then Ashera can flip her forward into position to keep Gatekeeper safe from the ranged. And then we'll
Close
dance
your
Ashera
eyes.
There is
who can
but
move
one
up here.
future.
and let
Forward.
Edelgard jump forward to keep him safe from the melee. So the first thing that should happen here is that Sigurd should dance Edelgard again, since he can't actually reach Gatekeeper. And then the melee have to attack next, since Gatekeeper's also stopping both of their cavalry units from moving
my own path.
to a space where they can attack. Fjorm moves in next, and, well, like,
No mercy.
Ceros is just not able to get much done. Leaf moves in here and can do an appreciable amount of damage to Fjorm, at least before it gets mitigated. But all of that damage gets reflected and makes it pretty easy for her to take him down. And then Corrin can also do some damage, mostly from that second hit. But it's not quite enough to punch through Fjorm, and she heals most of it right back. While Thracier is only going to give Fjorm an extra 13 hit points here. And since Edelgard can't actually move anywhere, that's the end of their turn. And from here it should be pretty easy to clean things up. Gatekeeper can pick up this first pot,
I am the answer.
and then we'll flip Fjorm into position one more time.
Tread carefully.
Let Edelgard break Bright Shrine,
Oh,
and
I'll do it.
get Plumeria into position to buff
Yes.
Gatekeeper. Or Gatekeeper's tile, at least.
Yes.
And then we'll just tank Seagard down. With his weapon offline, he's not really going to be able to do too much damage to Fjorm. Or much of any at all, at least. Having his bond skill offline isn't helping him either here. And then Edelgard gets to wander forward one tile, which
Reporting
of
for
course
duty.
just lets Gatekeeper move forward and continue isolating her from our team,
Lady Niffle.
while we
There is but
flip
one
Edelgard
future.
to give her a set of buffs,
Tread
and we'll move her
carefully.
forward,
Close your
giving
eyes.
Plumeria an avenue to jump in and buff that tile for next turn, and we'll debuff their Edelgard in the bargain. And then we'll just say go, and end the match right here. Our Edelgard has more than enough speed and the auto follow-up to break through
No mercy.
the fallen Edelgard's follow-up denial, and Steady Breath gives her a solid bonfire to finish the job. This match is going to be a really fun one. I haven't run into too many teams with this high of investment, and this one's very impressive with a maxed out bonus week Fjorm as their Farsafe bodyguard, complete with attack speed unity and an attack speed bond just to max out her offensive stats and mostly let her just one-shot anything that tries to attack her. Along with this maxed out Brave Edelgard, ascended and everything for plus defense. That's what I'm considering giving mine at some point. Along with this maxed out Brave Leaf, who's very bulky with this ARD attack def and joint drive attack and death blow on top of everything. And a rarely seen original Seagard, who's also maxed out and is actually very well suited to breaking through a near save Brave Edelgard, since even though she can mitigate the second hit, that Glimmer still amps up the damage considerably, and he swings very hard on the first hit to boot. They've also got an Odor in the corner here to help pad their stats, and 2 Mirabilis to do the same. Overall, this actually really improves the bulk of these armors by a significant amount. 10 res and 5 defense does a lot of work for them, along with the hit points. And the 2 Mirabilis actually combo really well with these weapons that can severely damage an enemy's attack, defense, and res, and are a little hard to account for since usually there aren't 2 of them, and they're coming from units other than what's necessarily within 2 spaces. Overall, this team's extremely impressive, and it took me a bit of thinking to try and figure out a good way to crack it, but I think I figured out a way to do it. And it doesn't actually involve a safe ball. Part of the reason this is going to work is because this catapult misses our safety fence,
Yes.
and with the right setup, we should actually be able to use this safety fence to hit and run on the first turn, even with this Fjorm guarding their team.
Sure thing.
We're going to have Claude open up this flower bed,
To be
and
by
then
his
let
side.
Catria flip Ashera into position, and move herself into position to enable a triangle attack.
Why not?
Plumeria is going to Dance Catria,
There is
and
but
then
one
Ashera
future.
can jump forward and two-shot this Fjorm.
Nuclear launch detected.
She actually gets to use her ice mirrors on the stronger hit here, since we will get to charge up the Glimmer,
Don't waste your energy.
but it's not going to be enough for her to survive.
On the right
Then
foot.
with Fjorm out of the way, we can Dance Ashera
Yes.
and have her break Leaf, who would be very spooky for her to handle if he got to counterattack. And then we can just have Catria flip her to safety. And we'll be out of range of them for the next turn, so the safety fence will lock them out. And there we go.
Let's
From
go.
here, we're going to play a couple of shenanigans to make sure we test this gravity trap, which we now know is real, since we already got the other one.
Wait for me.
And then Catria can break this catapult for us before retreating.
There is but
Ashera
one
can then
future.
jump forward and wipe out this Edelgard.
Perished, flawed one.
Without any way to fight back against ranged attackers, she's never going to have a chance in that fight. Then we're going to use Peony's Duo skill,
What's
which
this?
lets Claude move out of the way and snipe one of the Mirabilis, and keep the other one pinned into place, so we don't have to worry about her for next turn.
Close your
From there,
eyes.
we can have Plumeria Dance Ashera,
I am the answer.
which lets her move over and start taking out the rest of their actual threats.
Don't waste your energy.
Secret goes down without any problems.
On the right
And then I'll
foot.
just dance her one more time with Peony,
Yes.
and let her take down Odor.
Don't waste your energy.
And with that, the map is
What is
pretty
your
well cleared
desire?
up.
Sure
Then
thing.
from here, it's a pretty straightforward path to
New dawn.
pick up both pots
What's this?
Oh, I'll do it.
before
There
we
is
let
but
Ashera
one
close out the
future.
match.
Fool!
That was a fun one. Took a bit to plan that out, but it's great to see it pay off. Let's see what we get next. This one's going to be a very interesting rematch near the end of the week. They've got a very intimidating pair of save armors with an Brave Edelgard, who's actually using Pavise and Steady Breath instead of an offensive special, which combines very nicely with the Sniffle and her damage reduction against the first hit, which makes it very hard to break her before her Black Eagle rule kicks in, and, well, once that happens, you're probably not going to finish her off. We're also combining that with a similarly built and very invested Nagi for first save, who is extremely difficult for most ranged units to break through unless they happen to be a red or green physical unit. They're also pairing this with a Harmonic Catria, and they actually already ascended her attack to go with her speed. It's very impressive, especially when combined with a refined Brave Olm, who's also been ascended for his speed, making him very hard to avoid being swept by this refine, and also just lets him hit very hard when combined with a full speed defense. They're backing all of this up with a +10 Mirabilis, who's actually got quite a few tracking flowers invested into her on top, and a Wings of Mercy Seraphs in the back. This Hone Dragons is a neat way to help boost Nifl's offensive stats, to help her actually just survive or just threaten any opponents she runs into. And this speed tactic, combined with this res tactic, are very carefully placed, since the speed tactic means that Edelgard's rally speed can only ever hit Alm, and Alm's rally res can only ever hit Edelgard or Seros, or Mirabilis. Altogether, that actually creates a very nasty little trap, where if you try to bait Alm from his maximum range, Edelgard will rally him, followed by Mirabilis dancing her from this defense tile, which then lets Catria move over and rally Edelgard from the only remaining tile on this bolt trap. I think she'd move over one space after that, but even with that, it lets Alm move in with a triangle attack on this to hit whatever unfortunate unit tries to tank him. Now, with all that said, I don't think this is quite as impervious as they might like, since it's very easy to just isolate this column and defuse almost the entire trap. And we should actually just be able to get this started on the first turn.
Yes.
It's also a remarkably melee-heavy map.
Let's
I'm going
find
to
happiness.
move Fjorm out of the way. And then
Close
just
your
dance Dimitri
eyes.
forward, which debuffs Alm's attack and means we take a little bit less damage from him.
Your orders.
And then move Dimitri forward to just bait from here. They don't have any ranged units on their team at all, actually, so I don't have to worry
Yes?
about Fjorm getting into position.
I am the
I'll just
answer.
move Ashera forward to make sure Dimitri gets his attack buffs for next turn
What
as
is
well.
your desire?
Let's go. I think the first thing that happens here is that Alm just moves in to attack, and while he can actually do a chunk of damage before the damage
Don't let them
reduction,
retreat.
Dimitri getting to one-shot him with Soul means that we don't sustain anything. And then Catria moves forward, which gives Mirabilis
Don't let them retreat.
a questionably placed attack. And from there, Nagi pivots forward, and everyone files in behind her. While I was hoping to get Catria knocked out here, not having to worry about the dancer is still pretty good. And we should be able
Lady
to
Niffle.
start cleaning things up one by one from here.
Your orders.
Evans is going to let Dimitri move all the way down here,
Why not?
then we'll dance him and debuff Nagi for the combat here.
Let's
Fjorm's
find
going to move
happiness.
over one tile, and
Yes.
Ashera is going to move down here to
I'll
continue
comply.
buffing him again for next turn. And then Dimitri's just going to bait out Nagi. And we'll say go. Nagi moves in. There aren't any rallies that can actually happen here, and well, she can do some damage. It's just not enough to break through Dimitri's soul-powered healing.
On my honor.
And the damage reduction too. Then Edelgard considerately takes the bait of Fjorm and Plumeria and moves over to the left instead of continuing to grab her allies here,
Yes.
which makes it very easy for Dimitri to start by knocking out Niffle. The damage reduction does let her survive and counterattack, but she can't do too much damage to him.
On my honor.
I love
Then
you.
we'll just have Fjorm clear off the pesky debuff that would
I'll
prevent
do it.
Dimitri from counterattacking next turn.
I'll protect
And
you.
then shuffle the
Let's
Fjorms
find
around to
happiness.
continue baiting Seros and Edelgard down through this corner.
Yes.
Move Naga out of the way of Catria, and let Dimitri handle her himself. She moves in, can do a bit of damage,
We will not lose.
but not enough to stop Dimitri from healing himself to full health again. From here, the trick is really just about making sure we get to these Aether pots before the end of the match, and it's a bit tricky to manage that since we want to get there without having Ceres moving over to this tile and getting in our way. I think they've got a way to do that, and it involves making sure that Fjorm discourages Ceres from moving this way,
Close your
while
eyes.
also making sure that we continue baiting her down to this side.
I'll
To
comply.
do that, we're going to have Dimitri sit here and not entirely block this path off with
Careful,
Fjorm over
careful.
here,
Yes?
and then the other Fjorm can jump up here and block this path,
There is but
while
one
Ashera
future.
moves up here.
It will be done. What
and
is your
Naga
desire?
will tile as well. Edelgard's always going to attack since she can. And Dimitri's
On
not
my
actually
honor.
going to quite finish her off thanks to the Zegas. Or Pvis, not
Don't let
Vegas.
them retreat.
But he's also doing fine health-wise, and she's down to 3 hit points. Which actually means that even though Ceres was very rude and went this way anyway, we aren't going to have to worry about Edelgard anymore since her weapon is offline and she no longer has the mobility to catch up with us. Handling Ceres here is just a little tricky since we want to deal with her before she can use Wings of Mercy. That
Your
actually means
orders.
we're going to end up using these traps. Oh, well, I guess we don't have to worry too much since that wasn't the real one. And
Lady
since it
Niffle.
wasn't the real trap, we can just move
I'll
Fjorm
do
over,
it.
dance Dimitri,
I'll
and let her
comply.
move up and absolutely demolish Ceres. And now that that's done, we don't really have to worry about much, since, again, Edelgard's not going to get healed since she's out of range of this, and
Let's
her
find
weapon's offline,
happiness.
so she doesn't really have any mobility to worry us.
Yes, I am the answer. Yes.
The gravity effect from this tactic room is a little annoying, but it shouldn't be too hard for us to deal with. From here, we should be able to reach these Aether pots, even though we did end up running down the clock a bit.
I'll protect you.
That's fine.
I love you.
Swapping Plumeria over lets Fjorm use Flyer Formation to break the first pot,
Close
we
your
can dance her.
eyes. Careful.
and reach
careful.
the second pot,
Yes.
and then we'll just move Dimitri down here,
It will be done.
let Naga and Ashera
Yes.
move out of the way, and let Fjorm, or Dimitri, close out the match.
We will not lose.
With a very in-character closing. This match will be a fun rematch to close the week out with, and probably pretty straightforward. They have a pretty neat array of threats, including this +10 Lin. Even with a bit of a budget build, she can still be a threat to a lot of enemy targets, thanks to Sakei's Blessing, which lets her sweep most sword, lance, and axe users. And they're protecting their front line with a near-save Robin, and keeping themselves somewhat safe from debuffs thanks to the Sarah. And combining that with a Diopini for some extra attack buffs, and a Mirabilis over here as their second dancer. Mirabilis and Ceres actually end up being the primary targets for Ceres' staff, which doesn't really let her keep the other units too safe. But this bonus week Thracer is quite impressive too, +7. She can do a lot of work, especially with the Wings of Light from Ceres. I don't think we're going to have too many issues with this. It should be a pretty straightforward match overall. We're going to take this first turn, just
Where
with
to
the
today?
safe defense to break these pots
I'll
and
do
get ready
it.
for the second.
Greetings!
And it should be easy enough
Yes?
to clean things up
The choice
and
is
close
clear.
out the match.
What is your desire? There is but one future.
I'm setting up to give Edelgard a Dragon Slaying buff for next turn, even though I really don't think she's going to need it here.
It will be
And
done.
also let Naga smite Gatekeeper forward. Oh, and that is the heavy trap. Excellent.
Reporting
That
for
means
duty.
we can just have Gatekeeper break this healing tower. And since we did find the real gravity trap there, we don't actually need to
Tread
sacrifice
carefully.
Plumeria's combat buffs. Instead, we'll just move Edelgard over to
Why
the
not?
left and let Plumeria jump over her to dance her. And then
Forward.
she can swap Gatekeeper forward and into position.
Lady
Before
Nipple.
Fjorm moves up and swaps Plumeria to the right, which lets her buff all of these tiles with her weapon.
I am the
Then
answer.
we'll just move Ashera behind them to buff them again for next turn, and say go. From here, the first thing that will happen is a dance from Mirabilis, since she can't do damage to Edelgard. And then we should just watch them all attack into our safe bow and not really get to accomplish much. Fjorm actually ends up just out-healing all of the damage she takes here from the Thracier, and, well, Sarah's not going to have good time since Mystic Boost turns off her regular attack damage. And Sarah's, well, a triangle disadvantage, and Edelgard's very solid res stat means
I won't back down.
she's not getting anything done here. Sarah attacks in and doesn't really do anything. Penalty Disrupt from Fjord's weapon is doing a lot of work for us on this map, especially. And really makes it a lot easier to handle overall. Peony's not really a threat once her weapon and joint drive are both offline, and Robin moves in last and, well, meets about the same fate as Sarah's does.
I won't back down.
Edelgard being a proper Dragon Slayer this match. And from there, it's just a matter of letting Mirabilis
Tread
knock herself
carefully.
out.
Close your
And
eyes.
just move Edelgard over, dance her for some extra buffs, and end the turn. Mirabilis isn't getting anything done here, and, well,
You can't stop me.
the bonfire-fueled counterattack is a little overkill. It was another fun week overall. We did get a little degenerate with a full save ball with Fjorm and Edelgard, but we had some variety too. Dimitri soloing that second to last match was a lot of fun, and letting Ashera actually act as a nuke instead of a support was really neat to see as well. I do have a Discord channel, there's a link in the description if you'd like to hang out and chat, and I've also got a Patreon page there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.